Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Panenka podcast here. I'm Callum and we have a new series for you today. It's our Rebuild Club series. Basically, we're going to give you a look into some clubs maybe that were successful in the past or have the potential to be successful, and we're basically going to give you our rebuild, what we would do for the club to get them into that position. Today I'm joined here by Harvey.
Hello.
Ashlee.
Hello.
And a new guest, the man who runs the page with almost 400,000 Instagram followers. The man who runs United Inside. It's Theo. Would you like to say hello, my friend?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
We're making big waves already, boys. We're making big waves. So basically, as you can probably tell by the fact that we've got Ashlee, who you know is a United fan, and the man who runs, United Inside. Today, our first club's going to be rebuilding Manchester United to get them back to the glory days of chanting 20 times whenever you talk to them. But in our situation, it's chanting 21. So let's start simple. We're going to start with the idea of, I think we might change from this. Some of us may want to rebuild now to win now and believe the squad has enough potential to win now. Some may want to rebuild in the future. Some may be in the middle. We're going to start by asking which road you would take. So, Harvey, if you were hypothetically in charge of Manchester United, what would you do?
I know a lot of people aren't going to necessarily agree with my point of view, and maybe given the form that he's given in the last season and a half, is it that Solskjaer's been there?
Yeah.
I would put my faith in keeping him and the majority of the squad that they've got so far. They have got a lot of youth in there and a lot of good players that we've seen this season. For example, Marcus Rashford this season, he's sort of shown a new light that we haven't seen over the last few years. Sadly, that was ended with injury just for the lockdown break from football. But I would put faith in Solskjaer and the team that he's got now, at least for another season or two. Because if you keep sort of bringing out sort of new managers and whatnot over the next few seasons or whatnot, it'll be back to square one every time and the rebuild for a season, and then it won't work. Let's say they start again like Chelsea used to do. I think at one point there was a stat where they had something like 9 managers in 10 seasons. Yeah. They need to put faith into a manager and keep going with that. The same way that they did with Sir Alex Ferguson way back when. His first few league finishes were 13th and 9th, not pretty results. But they gave him time, and he became one of the best of all time. So my view on this is sort of crystal clear. I think they should be given time and invest in the future with the youth they have today. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's a good point. They've got a good future going for them, but some may. I'll go next, I guess. So with the players that they have in the squad, you've got Paul Pogba, you've got Harry Maguire, you've got. It looks like Jadon Sancho is going to be joining. It looks most likely that Jadon Sancho will join United.
Yeah.
You've got De Gea in goal. A lot of people may be saying Man United are in the position to win now, but I'm more of in a position of sticking in the middle, but leaning towards the future. Personally, I just don't see the tactical now with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I see the man management, but is that because he's kind of proven to me that he doesn't have the guts to stand up to the big players like Pogba. He kind of wilts us under it. And, some managers that works, but if you want to win the Premier League title, and if you're especially looking at a team like United, where Ferguson would drill players like David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, superstars, and they would listen. I mean, that's, that I would say that's basically impossible nowadays with with footballers now. Footballers just tend to throw a tantrum now too much because there's so many options nowadays. But if I'm United, the first thing I do is I give Solskjaer until the end of the season, this last run of games, and I look at, because as we said in the weekly waffle, Man United have probably the easiest run of games out of any team in the league. And I was talking about this. It's that easy to the point where I wouldn't say if Solskjaer doesn't win at least 3/4 of his games, he's not fit to be manager of that club, because there are games where you should win a majority of them, and if you don't, then do you really deserve to be in charge of such a big club, especially when there's managers like Mauricio Pochettino, who was in such a similar situation as Spurs, with all this young talent, but also with a few divas, where he could rebuild this Man United team. into arguably what I would say is, looking at it, a better unit than Spurs all around. He has more talented players, but of course that's my opinion. I feel like the first move they have to make, if Solskjaer doesn't perform, is lean towards trying and offering heaven and earth to get Mauricio Pochettino. Ashlee, what do you think Man United should do?
Yeah, so I agree with you there. To be honest, I think we should get rid of Solskjaer because, in my opinion, there's not one team in the league. If you asked them, they wouldn't swap their manager for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. When he was at Cardiff, I think he showed that he wasn't cut out for managing. He almost got relegated instantly when he was at Cardiff, and I guess you could put that down to the manager before him. I think was it Malky Mackay before him?
Yeah, I think they had some like really bad problems like in that whole season, and they were pretty much going down anyway. And
yeah,
then he came in.
So I think when he was when he was at Cardiff in the summer transfer window, he signed, I think it was Bruno Manga and Adam Lafondra, who were both agent at that time, and he got fired 2 weeks after he made these signings. But yeah, at United he's obviously signed Daniel James, Harry Maguire for 80 million. Wan-Bissaka. There's still uncertainty home and away as well. Harry Maguire for a centre back that's worth 80 million, you expect more from a centre back that is worth 80 million. Virgil van Dijk, he costs around the same. He's performing. He's an integral part of that Liverpool team. And yeah, I think obviously Dan James and Aaron Wan-Bissaka are long-term signings because obviously they're young. They're only going to improve. But I think they need a manager that is willing to take that next step to help them improve. And I think Pochettino is the perfect man for that. He took a Tottenham team that was literally struggling to get into a Champions League spot and took them to the Champions League final. How many people can you say did that? Like, he signed players. He knows how to use his money intelligently. Signed players like Sissoko, Lucas Moura, Alderweireld, Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, who have all showed how valuable and quality they are. How when they've been at Spurs, his time at Tottenham definitely showed how he can use his money, and also showed how he can inspire a club to success. For him to take a team that obviously that was struggling for a Champions League spot and put them into the final just speaks volumes for me, and I think he is the perfect manager to take over from Solskjaer.
Yeah, so last but not least, Theo, what do you think United should do?
Well, listening to what you guys said, I would say a couple months ago, I was thinking about Pochettino, whether that would be what we need to do, because I was looking at the way we were playing, and sometimes there wasn't really a style of play. You couldn't really see where we were going. But I would definitely say that, like, since Fernandez has come in, like, I'm pretty sure our form, we were definitely like top two since Fernandez joined. So I think if Solskjaer keeps getting in the players that he wants and can build how he wants, and you just look at that, he's signed four players. So Maguire, James, Wan-Bissaka, and Fernandez. Fernandez being the only like sort of world-class attacking player. James was more of a potential. Wan-Bissaka was more potential, but he's done really well. And Maguire was probably someone that people expected like a lot from like straight away. So I think if Solskjaer keeps getting players that like are who he wants, then I'd definitely give him more time. And I think on what you were saying, Callum, with him not being tactically like perfect, I'd agree. I don't think he's been like great, especially in the smaller games when we need to break down teams. But when you look at the bigger games, when like we've got so many good results this season, not many teams have beaten Man City away. We've drawn with Liverpool. We played pretty well, to be honest, at Anfield, and we were unlucky to lose. But the problem is that we don't take our chances because we didn't have the like that attacking midfielder behind Martial. Rashford was injured at the time, to thread the balls through, because Pereira and Lingard just aren't good enough. So since Fernandez come in, like it was much better. So I would say I definitely give Solskjaer time, because I think he just needs better players. And I'm pretty excited for next week. The thought of Pogba and Fernandez behind Rashford and Martial is really exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's understandable. And what we're going to move on to next is The goalkeeper situation is, I feel like we all made good points about the managers there, and you could see it going either way and being successful. Obviously this is opinion based, and it's not like it's one thing set in stone. But if we move on to goalkeepers, this is where I think things get really interesting. Because of course, there's a certain goalkeeper out in Sheffield who is blowing David De Gea out of the water currently. But is he going to continue to do that if he comes to United? So what I'm here to ask you is, we're going to go in reverse order this time, is Theo, David De Gea, or Dean Henderson?
Why not have both?
Oh.
I think it'd be too much to say to Henderson like straight away. Your De Gea's gone. Henderson, you're number one. I've read a few quotes from him where he said stuff like he doesn't want to just play a couple of games for Man United and then be like, oh yeah, I've made it. He wants to play like 50 games, 100 games, and then say, yeah, like I'm the man. So, and I don't see why, when you have a goalkeeper, obviously he hasn't been as good these last 2 seasons as he was before, but he's definitely like top 5 in the world, De Gea. Why would you get rid of him and not have like Henderson, one of the up and coming young English goalkeepers? Why not have him learn from De Gea for a season or two? So and then we obviously got Romero as well. He's probably like the best backup in the world. So yeah, like I think it's too soon for Henderson to be number one. But I think he's definitely got a future at Man United, especially because I love reading the stuff that he says. He doesn't seem like unhappy to be out on loan. He doesn't feel like he's being pushed aside. Like he understands it's part of like learning and stuff, and he's ready. And I'm sure he understands that he's got like bloody David De Gea in front of him. So I'm sure he's ready to wait. And so yeah, I'd have De Gea number one definitely next season. And I think there's rumours of him Henderson going back on loan to Sheffield United, which I wouldn't blame him really. But definitely De Gea for number one next season.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable of him learning that from such a talented goalkeeper, someone we've seen who has the potential to be the best in the world at his peak. And but Ashlee, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I actually agree with Theo there. As good as Sergio Romero was as a backup keeper, he did turn 33 in February, and obviously keepers do have a longer lifespan. But I think when you turn to 33, you start going downhill then. And Dean Henderson's coming up at the moment. So I think United's best option is to probably let Sergio Romero go and bring back Dean Henderson from Sheffield United. I think doing this will give Dean Henderson the experience he needs alongside David De Gea, training with David De Gea, such a big keeper, and being at a big club, because he's been at Sheffield United for the last season. I think him just being at United will give him that experience next to De Gea, and even Nathan Bishop would probably work off him as well. So Nathan Bishop's up and coming keeper. But yeah. I think giving Dean Henderson the number 2 spot will also push David De Gea to perform better, because obviously this season he's not been performing very good. He's been declining this season, but I think just having Dean Henderson behind him, who's had such a good season, will just push David De Gea to perform that a little bit better. We saw it with Luke Shaw and Brandon Williams last season. Brandon Williams was trying to take over Luke Shaw's spot, and Luke Shaw performed better in order to get back into the team. And I think even if Dean Henderson does overtake De Gea as a number 1 keeper, it'll be a huge confidence boost for Dean Henderson. It'll keep him at that level, and I think bringing him back will bring out the best in both the goalkeepers that we have.
I just wanted to say quickly, just from what we were saying with like having 2 goalkeepers. If you remember, like in 2014 when Mourinho went back to Chelsea, he had Cech and Courtois in the same season, and Courtois had already like played in that Champions League final, and Cech had been like number 1 the season before, so obviously much more experienced than Henderson, and they were both there fighting. Obviously Courtois was number 1, but still having Cech as like someone to learn from. Like obviously it hasn't gone well for him recently, but at the time he was one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. So I think that's an example of like how having two goalkeepers isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you, except I'm not going to be as nice to David and give him a season or two. I feel like he's at his peak of his goalkeeping abilities and also the peak of his value currently. I feel like right now is when you'll get the most money for him, especially from teams like Bayern Munich, where even though you see Manuel Neuer's talents, you see them also dipping. So it's very realistic that you could see Bayern jump in at a David De Gea for a lot of money. But I would swap. My suggestion would be is bring both of them back, keep them both in the team, and let them fight until January. And then, depending who performs better, and keep Romero too, because if Henderson is performing, but David De Gea is still playing, still top goalkeeper in the world, then Sheffield United probably won't say no to taking him back. A lot of teams, for example, Everton might say, you know what, let's loan in Dean Henderson until the end of the season to push Pickford. You could see a team like, let's try to think, maybe a newly promoted team, maybe if Leeds come up, Leeds say, that's our keeper for the rest of the season. If Kiko Casilla doesn't perform, there's so many options, and I feel like, but they need to try capitalise on De Gea while they can get the bank for him. But if he still performs as a top keeper in the world, you can't get rid of that. It's irreplaceable. And I think United may pay off to pay the risk of Dean Henderson, who, behind a lesser defence with overlapping centre-backs, has proven he can save the big shots. And, I would say Harry Maguire and Lindelof are better than, John Egan and stuff like that, even if John Egan's a talented player, So, yeah, that's my opinion. And last but not least, we have everyone's favourite Baldy. Harvey, what's your opinion?
I was just thinking about what Theo said earlier about Dean Henderson wanting to be, the big shot, the man, I think he said. If he was to go out on loan again next season to Sheffield, they've not had a bad season this season. They just came up last season, and then are they sat 7th at the moment? 6th, 7th in the table?
I think they're just below us, and if they win their game in hand, they go above us in 5th.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's perfect proof of why, if he wants to get to this sort of mantle at Man United, where they usually have this amazing keeper throughout history, if he wants to be that keeper, I think it would be wise for him to give De Gea the next season or two. Maybe let him play out the rest of his contract, the rest of his prime years, if you will, at the club. I think it's obvious to see that De Gea has passed his best. If not, he's already levelled off, because over the last few seasons, we've seen more and more mistakes leading to goals. Maybe a lack of confidence. We saw him in the World Cup when Ronaldo put a ball straight through him. Shouldn't have scored from outside the box, not at all. But weak hands, and that cost them the win in that game. But I do think Dean Henderson, if he is wanting this number one role at Man United, that he gives De Gea the next season or two, stays on loan at Sheffield, like Callum said, maybe at Leeds, at a newly promoted team, or it can be anybody for that matter. But if he wants that number one, he gives the time to De Gea, and he goes out on loan and waits his turn. But I do think that somewhere in the future he will get that role eventually, definitely.
Yeah, and something that just came to my mind when we were talking there. If you look at Man United's history with goalkeepers, it seems like their new goalkeepers seem to have one breakout season, and then just, Man United have always seemed to be quite ruthless with goalkeepers. You saw when Peter Schmeichel started to show a tiny bit of decline, kicked him out, quickly bringing Edwin van der Sar from Fulham. I believe it was Fulham or Juventus at the time. I know he did play for Fulham, but I don't know which order. You saw as soon as Van der Sar started to dip off a little bit, you're too old, retirement, here comes David De Gea. And maybe is this the sign that David De Gea starts to slip a bit? They've got this new young goalkeeper in Dean Henderson who, could come in and bang, steal his spot again. And kind of like, you couldn't really blame United for doing it, because every time we've seen it happen, it's been massive success. The new keepers come in, stuck their spot. De Gea's been here for around 7-8 years now. It's not like he hasn't been here a long time. He's stamped his spot in Man United history by probably, he realistically has probably brought you up 2 or 3 spots in at the table multiple times.
The amount of times I've been at games and he's just like, I've just thought, how, like it was Van Gaal's first season. I had a season ticket, and the amount of times, I think it was like, it was Stoke in the last minute, and he saved like 2 just ridiculous saves. And there was that game when we beat Liverpool 3-0, and but like they had more possession, and De Gea still got man of the match when we won 3-0. Like he's just ridiculous. Like so yeah, he's definitely in Man United fans' hearts, and
yeah, he really is.
Definitely see him.
He was the sort of goalkeeper, in my opinion anyway, the one that started popularising, you saw, kind of that each big goalkeeper of a generation has their thing, Peter Schmeichel had his star jump save, and stuff like that. If you have a look at it, David De Gea seems the one keeper to me, or anyway, if I think of a keeper who saves the ball with their feet a lot more than they should, David De Gea is incredible. He's probably, you could argue, just as good at saving the ball with his feet as he is with his hands.
I can remember against Real Madrid in the Champions League, I think it was 2013.
Oh, I know what you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think I can't remember who shot, but it was like hand height, and when he's kicked it out of the air, like how do you do that?
he did one with his feet in that game. I think it was Contral.
Yeah,
it was spilling in to the bottom, and he like stuck his foot out and like actually it might be his hand. I don't know, but it was like literally like just. I still think he's going to stick around for a bit.
And yeah, that's perfectly understandable. Obviously, a lot of people still see De Gea's talents. I think everyone still sees De Gea's talents, but a lot of people are getting excited about the prospect of Dean Henderson and looking at Man United's past. But we've talked about goalkeepers. We've gave our opinion. So if we move on to probably, in my opinion, one of the more interesting, maybe the most interesting part of this, the defence, because I'd say that's the leaky area for United. That's the area where maybe fans can dream about big signings like Kalidou Koulibaly and stuff like that. But, you may say Koulibaly's a move for now. There's also, Milan Skriniar from Inter Milan. There's a lot of areas to talk about, but I feel like we should start in an area that me and someone else here have a lot to talk about, and that's the left-back position. I'll go first since I'm talking. I'll just rattle it off. I think Luke Shaw either needs to be pushed or sold. Because the thing is with Luke Shaw is Man United fans, certain Man United fans, and all the Man United fans here know which ones I'm talking about, will be like, oh, give Luke Shaw a chance. But realistically, I look at it and everything Mourinho said about his lack of work ethic and him just not being ready to play, Mourinho was right. A lot of the things Mourinho said about Man United while he was there were right. And now people are starting to realise that that's coming true. And Luke Shaw, he plays well under competition, as Ashlee spoke about earlier. When Williams came in, he started to perform. He started to look like one of probably you could say the 3rd best left back in the league behind Robertson and Luca Digne. But it seems that only when you give him someone to push him, he performs, and that shouldn't be the case. Because I feel like he should be in a position where he's 24, he's still young, should have stamped his authority. I'm the next fullback that stays at this club for 15 years, and no one can move me. Because it's not like Gary Neville was the most talented player. It's
Shaw only 24.
Luke Shaw's only 24. Yeah.
Jeez, it's like you forget how young he was when he joined.
Yeah, you really do. It shocked me when I found it out. But so I have thought my opinion would be sell Luke Shaw while you can. I think you could still get a decent amount of money for Luke Shaw due to his age and him being English. And you take a look around. You give someone who Brandon Williams, that was almost an awful mistake. I went to look, I went somewhere who people may look at. I went into the Dutch league. I looked in the Ajax squad, and I looked at the Argentinian fullback Nicolas Tagliafico as someone who could take that spot. And I'm looking at this for my opinion as a Pochettino team. So I look here to my left to look at what the squad I built, and it's a typical Pochettino 4-2-3-1 team. So that may be a hint towards where this is going for a certain player who comes from France. But I looked at this, and the fullbacks for Spurs have always been, very. They're almost like box-to-box defenders at fullback. You had Kyle Walker, who was a amazing defender, but also was talented going forward. And you had, Danny Rose, who wasn't the most talented at either, but could do both at a serviceable level. And Pochettino brought the best out of him. So looking at Tagliafico, he is 27, and people may think, oh, so what's the point signing him for around £30 million to stay 2 seasons? That's exactly the point. He can come in, have 2 great seasons. Williams can learn this sort of box-to-box sort of full-back mentality, this overlap, this come back to defend, and it can develop him more. But if I tell you, just rattle off stats, for example, in his 6 appearances in the Champions League, he's averaging 4.5 tackles and 3 interceptions. For a full-back, that's insanity. In the Eredivisie, 2.5 tackles, 2 interceptions, and his offensive talents, it's not like they don't exist, He has, about a key pass a game, a dribble a game. At full-back, that's not exactly something to be doing a lot, people still expect them to get back and defend more, even if you have, unless you're like Andy Robertson or Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I really think Tagliafico would be an immense signing, a very talented signing, offensively and defensively, who Williams can learn from, and then in 2-3 years' time take the spot as that starting left back, as he's proven he has the talent, in my opinion, to be a top left back in the Premier League, from what I've seen. But moving on to someone who I know wants to talk about a left back a lot, Ashlee, what do you think Man United should do with the left back position?
Yeah, so at the left back position, I've actually agreed with you there. I said get rid of Luke Shaw and bring in a more like defensive and attacking player. So I've gone with Alex Grimaldo at left back. We've seen his time in Benfica. He is a defender and an attacker. Last season, he actually got 12 assists and 4 goals in 34 appearances as a left back. I think that just speaks volumes of how he actually does defend and attacks. His value is only 25 million as well, which would be a bargain for a player like Alex Grimaldo. He's got 1.2 clearances a game, 1.7 dribbles, which is, for a left back, you expect those stats from like a midfielder, not a left back. And I think Alex Grimaldo would fit into United team alongside Williams at left back, who could push Grimaldo, or Williams could push Grimaldo to perform, and Grimaldo would perform under that pressure that Williams is putting on him. He had 4 goals last season, which Luke Shaw doesn't bring goals to the team. Luke Shaw doesn't bring assists to the team. Grimaldo could bring that to the team, and this would be a Pochettino team that I'm looking at as well, to agree with Gaffer here. So I think, yeah, Alex Grimaldo would be the perfect left back to replace Luke Shaw.
Yeah, and just another thing to look at. I'm on Tagliafico's Who Scored page here. So I just decided to scroll down a bit if it had shown me his value. But one thing I found out is his characteristics, which is basically his strengths and his weaknesses. According to Who Scored, Tagliafico has no significant weaknesses as a fullback. If you don't have any significant weaknesses, you can't really say no to the opportunity. But since we're talking about defence in general, we both highlighted left back as maybe a problem area that they need to fix. Theo, is there a specific part of the defence you would change, or would you keep it all the same?
I think for me, the centre-back next to Maguire is what we need to target next. I actually disagree with both of you. I think Shaw was probably in the best form of his career before lockdown. He was doing really well. And again, I've always been frustrated with Shaw because sometimes I look at him and I think you're obviously quick, just push up. Sometimes he just always passes the ball backwards to Maguire or whoever's the left centre back instead of just pushing down the wing sometimes. But like a lot of players since Fernandez came in, it's just his form's been infectious, and he's just Shaw was playing so well. So I definitely keep Shaw, especially with Williams pushing him. But yeah, a centre back next to Maguire would be my pick for the next thing to go for. Probably a quicker centre back than Maguire. Maguire's strong and he reads the game well, but he's not necessarily the quickest, and he'll probably get done for pace by a lot of the pacey forwards. We've got Bailly, we've got Tuanzebe, who are both quick, but Tuanzebe's young and he's learning, and Bailly like sometimes he's the best centre back in the world. Sometimes he's like championship level. Like he just gives away the most stupid. He's so frustrating because you watch him sometimes, you just think you have everything for a centre back, and then sometimes he just does the most stupid challenges. And then Wan-Bissaka, I don't think I need to say anything about him. Like he's amazing. So yeah, right centre back is where I would target. I don't know who I'd pick.
So would you bring back Chris Smalling, Theo?
See, I see a lot of people mention that, but I sort of feel like just let the guy enjoy his life in Italy. Like he's got away from all the people taking the mick out of him and stuff like constantly, and he's clearly doing well. And I know that sounds like, obviously in football, like if Solskjaer looks at him and says, "You'd be good for my team," he's not going to care about whether Smalling is enjoying his life in Italy. He just wants him in the team. So I don't know how old Smalling is now. Is he like 30, over 30?
Yeah, he's 30, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we should probably, I know people will say Koulibaly, he'd be like 100 million, but I'm pretty sure he's like 28, 29. So I can't give you a perfect player for centre-back, but I just think a centre-back to partner Maguire is needed, because Maguire, I think, is also got better as the season went on. But Lindelof, Bailly and Tuanzebe, and certainly Rojo, obviously, thank God he's gone. I'm forgetting about Jones as well. But like you forget he's here sometimes. They're not consistent enough. So you need like a top centre-back next to Maguire, and hopefully that would start a good partnership.
Yeah, and I could probably, come straight out and suggest a centre-back for this United team. As soon as you said quick, someone who can get off the ball, I've spent a lot of time, and you'll have heard me in the thing rave about RB Leipzig, a team I've watched a lot of during the thing. So if I jump over to a certain centre-back, he may have had a poor performance last game, getting himself a red card against Paderborn, but someone who it's a lot of money, it's like 50, 60 million, but for a 21-year-old centre-back, I think it's good money. It's Dio Upamecano out of Leipzig. It's a lot, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to spend, but for a 21-year-old centre back who can, he's got that pace and that power. He's sort of like, it's a weird comparison, but I see a lot of Leon Umtiti in Umtiti's last season before his big move to Barcelona. That power and that that movement ability. He's only averaging around 2 tackles and 1.5 interceptions, but it's how quickly he can close down an attacker at centre back. He's not exactly small either. He can rough them up a little bit, and his ability to move around quickly will help Harry Maguire so much more as someone who can lead a defence, someone who may not be the most mobile, and relies on his tackling on someone coming into him, and maybe him reading a passing lane, or maybe him making a smart slide tackle instead of just brute force tackling with speed and power like someone like Upamecano can. And a lot of people are saying Koulibaly. I am on the same boat as Theo and the Koulibaly. He's 28, 29. I think it is best to just go out and get someone younger who can build with. Harry Maguire is not the oldest, I believe. Is Harry Maguire 25, 26?
I think he's. Honestly, I don't know, but I think he's 25, 26. I think that's right.
But get someone like Upamecano. Man United have proven they've got the money. Like we're in an economy crisis because of the COVID-19 issues, and they're saying, okay, don't worry, we can come and splash 100 million on Jadon Sancho. That's easy money. There you go. But I think I think even in my system where I would have kept Lindelof and let him develop a little bit. Maybe be a bit of a come on late sort of centre back and someone who can develop, because I've seen Lindelof. He has a little bit of a burst in him. You see that Lindelof can move every now and again. But even in my system, Upamecano would fit perfectly alongside Harry Maguire, who I believe has got a lot of slack, but obviously it's the price tag that gets him that slack. It's not exactly his ability of a player. When you're costing around the same as Virgil van Dijk, people are naturally just going to compare you to Virgil van Dijk. That's just how the world works. But it looks like we've basically agreed on that. Maybe a centre back needs a change, and the right back stays the same. We don't need to go into Wan-Bissaka. when Aaron
Definitely, yeah.
Wan-Bissaka develops that attacking side more, he's going to be the best right back in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's got it all for defensive. And it's a shame for him, really, that he'd probably be England's number one right back if it wasn't for Alexander-Arnold. But like we were saying, with having competition for places, like maybe that will spur him on. Maybe like going into, I might get a stick from United fans saying it, but maybe going into training and like working with him, he might improve on his attacking. And I'm sure Solskjaer will obviously do that, but seeing like another right back, they're pretty much the same age. Like I'm sure that would show him like what he can do. So yeah, exactly. I think attacking from Wan-Bissaka can definitely do much better. But yeah, definitely number one right back for us. I can't see that changing.
Speaking of right back, though, we also have Diogo Dalot at right back. I think if we loan out Diogo Dalot, he could improve so much if he goes out on loan. I think if he does go out on loan, that'd be the making of Diogo Dalot. As we saw against, I think it was Tranmere we played, he scored a goal in that game from right back, and in that game he was so attacking, he was so good at attacking and defending. And we've also got Ethan Laird, who is maybe on par with Aaron Wan-Bissaka as in just raw defending talent, but he doesn't get mentioned as much as I would like him to. But he is on par with the talent that Aaron Wan-Bissaka does possess.
Yeah, I'd say with Dalot, he put in some really good performances last year. Like we didn't really see him for most of the first half of the season, and then with a lot of the big games that Solskjaer probably got the job for, like PSG, I remember him playing right wing instead of right back, and he did really well. So maybe we might actually use him more as a right winger, like because sometimes Solskjaer plays three at the back with five across the midfield. And Dalot plays as the like the right mid, which he might be able to do that better than Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka might be better as like a right centre back in that formation for like big games. So yeah, like I don't know if I'd loan him out because he can play right back and left back, which is pretty useful when you've got like I don't know if we'll see with Champions League for next year. Like we might be in Europa League, which comes with a lot of games. So having someone that can play both sides and further up the pitch is pretty useful for a manager. So I wouldn't say loan him out, but I do agree that he has a lot more to give, and he's definitely being underused at the moment. But that's not his fault. Like he's got Wan-Bissaka in front of him.
Yeah. Right. So last but not least, Harvey, what do you think about the Manchester United defense, and what would you do with it?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I think right back, I think we all agree on that. With Wan-Bissaka being young and the talent that he's shown, I think that gives him a place in the squad, guaranteed. I could be a bit of a madman for saying this, but I do think that maybe giving Chris Smalling a chance when he comes back from his loan spell to partner with Maguire could be the call. So maybe not splashing out on an 80 million defender or whatever, maybe giving the chance. Yes, it might hurt their form, but if I was that club, I would rather take the risk of losing a few games than losing £80 million in a bad investment or something like that. And then as far as left back goes, I say play Brandon Williams. And if Luke Shaw wants to put the work in, he will. And he wants that first team place, he will. If he doesn't, then Brandon Williams, young, he's already shown that he fits the mould of a modern fullback with the getting forward, the pace. I'm pretty sure he's scored a couple of times last season, start of this season. All very promising signs from a player so young. So, yeah, easy for me. Keep right back the same. Let Chris Smalling come back in with Maguire, at least for a few games. And Brandon Williams starts over Luke Shaw.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all, in my opinion. But now we'll move on to midfield. So, the defensive, the attacking midfielders, and just so we don't linger on too much on certain players, we all agree Bruno Fernandez is the attacking midfield. There is no moving that man out of the position from what we've seen so far. He's incredible from what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
He's got his goal against Everton may have been, because T-Rex hands Jordan Pickford can't make a simple save, but he scored nonetheless. That's not the point. But what I think is interesting is if me and Ashlee have got a Pochettino system, we both probably have two defensive midfielders, since Pochettino is a 4-2-3-1, or maybe it wasn't really a defensive midfielder, because if you look at Moussa Dembele, he did both, but that's kind of what I've done. I've got one really defensive midfielder, and then I've got Fred to play the Moussa Dembele role, which I think Fred would really fit in a Pochettino system. He's got that defensive ability. He can dribble. He's not as technical a dribbler, because Moussa Dembele's dribbling, you could argue, was up there with best in the league. And if you've heard other people talk about him, the man was incredible with the ball at his feet. But Fred shown, he's come into his own this season after being called a flop. In my opinion, he's starting to easily prove his price tag. He's, in my opinion, Man United's best player this season, at the top, ahead of Marcus Rashford. He's been incredible, and I believe he really could play that Moussa Dembele role really well. So next to him, this is going to shock everyone, and this is where our opinions may differ. I believe Manchester United should cash out on the locker room cancer that is Paul Pogba. Not that Paul Pogba's not a talented player. Paul Pogba's incredible. He's proven on his day that he can be one of the best midfielders in the world. But for Man United, when does his day exist? It seemed like since he first moved there, he doesn't want to be there. Social media is more important. Bantering around with, championship talent Jesse Lingard, it's just like, I just think he doesn't want to be there. And while you can still get like 75 million for him, you could go get that 75 million and buy the player I'm about to talk about, Wilfred Ndidi, and still have spare money. I think, especially if you're playing a Pochettino system, which is how I built this team, having Wilfred Ndidi as the man who sticks back, they may have Upamecano, or I may keep Lindelof and Maguire. Ndidi can drop between those channels and do incredible things, as he's proven in his time for Leicester. You could argue he's been Leicester's most impactful player since N'Golo Kante. And looking here, at what he'll bring your team defensively as a defensive midfielder, he's going to bring you around 4 tackles a game, I think it was. He brings you around, 4 tackles, 3 interceptions, 2 clearances, a dribble and a half. That's just stats. That's not from, that's not even me telling you from watching. That's me telling you what you should know if you just look at who scored, not even if you watch the Leicester games. The man's incredible, and has probably proven that, maybe it wasn't the worst thing for Leicester to sell N'Golo Kante while he was getting up there in age. So I believe the intelligent move would be to sell Paul Pogba while you can get a lot of money, which you can then use the spare money after buying Ndidi to rebuild the rest of the team, where you might find it use. You could probably use the Pogba money to buy Tagliafico and Ndidi, and then the money from players like Luke Shaw, and maybe if you get rid of Juan Mata, Matic, these older aging players who they might not want anymore, who Pochettino may want. It leaves Man United a lot of money to maybe buy stronger backups where they think they might need them, more wingers, more competition for certain players. But yeah, to put it simply and to explain, my best choice for Man United's midfielder is bye-bye Paul Pogba, hello Wilfred Ndidi. Harvey, what do you think?
I'm going to have to say, I think you can probably tell from this point, I'm not overly huge on spending these big sort of transfer funds on these big players and whatnot. I have faith in the midfield, and that might not come as a surprise to you guys at this point now. But even then, we've seen Scott McTominay come onto the scene this season at least, and show that he can be that big, strong holding midfielder that Man United clearly need. Even with that goal against Man City that I'm sure Man United fans sort of globally love to watch. Again, agreed on Bruno Fernandez. I think he's one of the best talents in the team. In his little time in the squad, he racked up a few goals and a few assists. We saw that at Sporting Lisbon over the last few seasons. I think they were linked with him last season, actually. And Spurs actually almost hijacked that transfer. It's a good thing it didn't go through, because I couldn't say the same for that team. But at least in this team, I think at least if they were to try Pogba, McTominay and Fernandez, with 2 CDMs being Pogba and McTominay, and the centre attacking midfield, the cam, if you will, being Fernandez. I think that could be really, really good for the team. And again, it saves them from spending 70, 80 million on a new big name player coming in and potentially flopping. Yes, Pogba has caused his problems with his countless haircuts and his the way that he likes to sort of treat social media over his teammates, sort of the attitude that he gives towards that. Sorry. I think it's at least worth a go with a player of that sort of worth and value and talent. I think it's worth a go keeping him around these two other great midfielders and seeing what sort of team they can make from that. So yeah, that's my take on midfield for Man United.
So anyway, right, so let's move on to Ashlee. What do you think Man United should do?
Yeah, so in my opinion, selling Paul Pogba would be the best would be in the best interest from the club and the player in question. It's no secret that Paul Pogba in the last year or so has been unhappy with the club for some time, and I think it's in the best interest for him and the club to leave and to pursue his career elsewhere. It's like good for the club because when Pogba's there, the aura surrounding the club is all doom and gloom when he's in the news. Like he's always in the news. He's always being berated by like Graham Souness or any of the other pundits. His wage at the moment is actually 290k a week for a player that's not doing anything to help the club at all at the moment. He's been, to be fair, he's been injured for a bit, but obviously, in the 4 years he's been at United, he's played 102 games. Is valued at, I think, 136 million at the moment, which we could use that money to then buy other players, as Gaff said. We could buy other players in defence and attack, and when we get, I think the foundation we have in midfield is good because we've got McTominay, Fred, Bruno, but players like Matic and Mata and Andreas Pereira and Jesse Lingard need to go because they are just dead wood, sitting there collecting a salary, collecting a big salary of that, and we need players who'd work for their money, who work for the club. Paul Pogba is all the time. He upset arguably the best manager in the Prem, which shows how much of a burden he is and how he can impact the mood of the squad. Because after that, when all that was going on, the squad weren't performing at all, and the mood of the squad just seemed to be so low. So I think we play Fred and McTominay in the CDM spots, Bruno Fernandez up front, and then just go with that.
Right, so I know that I believe you are quite the Paul Pogba fan with Bruno Fernandez, and which interests me a lot. I'd like to hear what do you think about the Manchester United midfield, and what would you do with it?
Well, I think it's actually really interesting because if you go back to the start of the season, or like maybe just after Pogba got injured and we didn't have Fernandez, that period before January, I think most United fans would have said that our midfield is probably like the weakest point. Like we don't have someone that can create chances. Like Rashford and Martial have actually, and Greenwood, to be honest, have scored like way more goals than they should have for like attackers that don't have like someone who can like play it through. You look at the other teams like Man City, Aguero. Look who he's got behind him. He's got Bernardo Silva. He's got Sterling. He's got De Bruyne. He's got David Silva. He's got like Gundogan might be playing CDM, but like he'll still basically be attacker. Like they've got all these players, and Rashford had Pereira and Lingard, so that just puts it into perspective. So yeah, I'm actually quite happy with our midfield at the moment because I think McTominay's not world class, but he's got a lot of potential, and I love how he plays. Like last season, we played Barcelona at Old Trafford, and McTominay was like by far the best player on the pitch, which is some achievement when you have Messi on the same pitch. So I really like McTominay. Obviously Fernandez, we know about that. I love Fred this season. He's like proven me wrong for sure. He's done so well. And then Matic is one that I think a lot of people want to get rid of, but I think it's worth keeping him for now. But in terms of someone to replace, I think he is like who we should be looking for, especially in this window. There was rumours like yesterday or the day before of us apparently trying to sign Van de Beek from Ajax for about 40 million, which would be quite good. But he's not really a CDM. He's more of an attacker, which we do need for squad depth. But what I would say is that I'd love to see us go for someone like Saul or Partey from Atletico. I think they'd work really well as sort of like energetic, but also like they are defensive midfielders. They're not someone, you don't know what kind of midfielder they are. You know for sure that they are going to just sit back and let Pogba and Fernandez just like run riot basically. I think that's where I probably disagree with you guys, that I would keep Pogba. I'm not as against him as a lot of other United fans are. I sort of think in a way that the stick he gets is just like sometimes just so like off the charts. It's like it wouldn't happen to any other player. This season, like he's been injured for most of it. He came back for a game, I think it was like Boxing Day or something, and he got injured again. And obviously it's hard to feel bad for players that are earning as much money as they are. But you sort of feel bad for him. You hear all this stuff in the press, but you can't go out and like prove yourself and show what you're doing when you're just on the sidelines. So it must be kind of frustrating. And to be honest, he hasn't had the best players around him while he's been here at Man United. First season, he had Ibra up front, who scored a lot of goals, but Ibra also missed without like the amount of assists Pogba should have had that season, putting it on a plate for Ibra, and was squandered. And then Lukaku, we all know, like he just missed a load of chances as well. And then Rashford in the second. Rashford also, he's not the finished product, but he's obviously getting there. Like he's kicked on after Pogba got injured, which is a bit weird. But you'd love to see Pogba and Fernandez behind Rashford and Martial. So that's what I'm excited for. The other day I put on my page like a mock team for like next week, and I think a lot of people disagree with me. I put Matic instead of McTominay just like for this game, just because I think of his experience and just sitting back. And I went for a diamond formation with Matic at the bottom, Pogba on the left, Fred on the right, and Fernandez in the attacking midfielder. But I think a lot of people disagreed. Sort of thought go for three in midfield. Yep, there it is. Go for three in midfield. Maybe just have McTominay and Pogba and Fernandez. But like that was just like something I came up with. But I'd love to see that. And in terms of the midfield in general, I'm quite excited for it, to be honest, because I think we've got a lot of depth. And like that, it's really exciting to me, like how that's changed since Fernandez came in.
It's clear Pogba has talent and no one could deny that, but it's, I guess the big question, and maybe this is something where the last stretch of the season will prove the people who want Pogba gone, wrong about his commitment to the club, but, we've just got to go off what we've seen, and even though he has missed a lot of games, I think his antics has proven, he doesn't play for the badge as much as some players, because as someone who's not a United fan, I always saw Man United's success as weird, especially at a younger age, players who weren't the biggest talents like Gary Neville, Michael Carrick, you wouldn't look at them.
That.
You wouldn't say they're a bad player, but you wouldn't go, oh, that's world class. But it was these players that played so hard for the badge that they looked so much better. Michael Carrick could boss a game, and it wasn't because he was a technical wizard. It was because he had heart and he grafted. And it's something that, we don't really see as much as, and it might be because we've seen that from Man United in the past, and that's naturally what we compare them to. You will always compare Man United to the Sir Alex Ferguson teams. You're never going to escape that comparison. Even if you win the next 3 leagues in a row, people might still go, well, it's not as good as the Man United team from 07 or 08. It's just natural from any team to compare to your past.
I think that's why we like Scott McTominay so much, because he reminds us of that sort of player, like a Michael Carrick, like a Gary Neville. I think it just reminds us of the times where we did have Sir Alex Ferguson and an actual good team, and he's one of those players that works so hard for the badge. And you know what? If you're a fan of a club, you would love to see players tracking back, making big tackles, using it intelligently. He's so passionate about the club, and it's just like it's so reminiscent of a player like Michael Carrick.
He's like one of us basically on the pitch, and I think that's why a lot of United fans love him. Also, used to follow me for now there. But I'd also just add, in terms of Pogba, I think we're in a good position really, because if you compare it to what it was like last summer, where basically if Pogba left, we were screwed like for midfield. Like we literally had basically not like Fred. We didn't know he was going to be good. McTominay, we didn't know he was going to be good. And then we had Pereira and Lingard as our attacking midfielders, which just isn't good enough. And Matic also, we didn't know. We didn't know what he's going to do. But now we're in a situation where Pogba is going to come into the team for these last couple of games, and we'll see is he going to perform? And then if he doesn't, we can get rid of him. We can get 100 million for him. We don't need him. He's sort of like an addition to what we already have, which is a nice situation for Solskjaer, where he doesn't have to feel like I need to pander to this guy because he's Pogba. Pogba's, to be honest, with how the midfield's been playing the last couple of games since we've been unbeaten, he's lucky to come back, but he's getting in because he's the World Cup winner. So he's got this remainder of the season to show he cares. And we all know his talent and how good he is. And if he performs, I'm sure he'll stay. But we can obviously cash in the summer and invest in other areas if he doesn't.
And yeah, it's just, it's so strange with Man United how many different ways you could go. It's why, this was probably the first rebuild I wanted to do. There's so many directions you can go with this United team and probably still have success. It's just, how do you find that success? But speaking of finding that success, I believe this is the area where you will find your success, and that's the forward line. The by far best part of this United team, especially if the very strong rumours of the man who is in my right attacking mid position are true, and that's Mr. Jadon Sancho joining United. And I know people are like, there's always big players linked to United, it never happens. I really do see Jadon Sancho in a Man United shirt. It's just something I can see. And, if we go over Jadon Sancho, 17 goals, 6 assists, basically 3 dribbles a game, the man he's spectacular. In 23 appearances, he has 33 goal contributions. And it's not like the German league is some awful league. It's not some bottom league where if some English guy gets loaned out there or bought on the cheap, they're going to absolutely rip it. The Bundesliga, in my opinion, is the second most competitive league in the world, even if Bayern dominate it every year. But if you look at every other league, there's always one or two teams that just dominate it. But I think if this happens, this rebuilds Man United front line with Fernandez in the middle, Rashford on the left, and then, in my opinion, I didn't know because I thought at first in a system, a Pochettino system, would Greenwood suit it more than Martial? That natural finisher, he isn't as slow and as umber as Harry Kane, but he's just that natural. I'm going to shoot and finish it, like the goal against Everton, where he literally perfectly placed it, and you could see by his eyes he knew where he wanted to place it, and it went perfect. And obviously I may show bias to Mason Greenwood because he's from the same place I live, but I think I see Martial taking that spot because I feel like Martial has come on leaps and bounds as a finisher. At first, I have Martial, but there is always a possibility of Greenwood swapping with Martial and Martial being a Swiss Army knife, deadly weapon off the bench. If Martial comes off the bench, he will be the best off-the-bench player. You could argue maybe even in the world, especially at a good develop point where he can literally play all along the forward line. It's such a dangerous prospect, and yeah, I just think this is the part of the Man United team that will really scare people in the future. Even without Jadon Sancho or Dan James, he's not the most talented player. He started off well, but he's still got that scary pace. He's so quick that he can just, if he catches a left back off guard or a right back off guard, he's going to dust them 9 out of 10 times. Even the quicker fullbacks in the league. So it is a dangerous part, and obviously Rashford has, I believe, got 13 or 14 goals in the league, maybe more. He's got quite a lot of goals. To say he's been pushed out on the wing this season. and he doesn't really play up front anymore. He's now a winger for that United team. But yeah, this is the one part of the United team that I think will bring them success, is that very dangerous and very skillful forward line. Theo, what do you think about the Manchester United forward line?
Well, I think in terms of what we've got, we're very lucky to have, like, Rashford sort of proved me wrong this season. I've always thought he was talented, but this season he sort of became, like, with no Pogba and Fernandez wasn't there yet, Rashford was like our main guy. And the amount, like, he actually won games for us where, like, he wouldn't do that before. He wouldn't, like, settle a game. He wasn't, like, the difference. And he's just become, like, he went to a different level this season. Unfortunately, got injured. Martial as well, like, he's frustrating sometimes because, like, I want to see him, like, work harder. I want to see him, like, chase defenders down and stuff. But for most of his team, to be honest, in my head, I'm thinking about these last couple of months when we've been playing really well, because that's going to influence my opinion, because that's what's most recent. And Martial in those games has done so well. Like, I'm pretty sure he scored in most of those victories. Like, I think about his header at Chelsea away, which, like, that's not even half a chance, and he scores it. The goal against Man City at Old Trafford, like, obviously it's intelligent from both Fernandez and Martial, but, like, it's still really good play. And obviously we can't talk about attack without talking about Sancho. I think I'm different to most Man United fans, as in, like, look, if they announce Sancho tomorrow, like, I'd be running around my room with my shirt off, like, celebrating, doing knee slides. But, like, I don't see him as much as the answer as, like, other people do. I feel more that we need like, an experienced attacker to complement what we already have, which is potential. Rashford is good now, but he has potential to be amazing. Martial is good now, but he has potential to be amazing. Same for Greenwood. Same for James as well, who I think he's had a good debut season, considering he came from Swansea last year. So I don't know, like, are we doing this like a formation, because we definitely need a right winger. Because I don't think James is good enough yet to be the main right winger. But I think he's going to be, like, if we do get Sancho coming off the bench next season, I think James is going to be like a different type of player, because he wouldn't have expected last year to be playing as many games as he did. He shouldn't really, because, like, that's on the owners. We should have gone and got another attacker, but instead we had to rely on James. And you could tell he was getting pretty burnt out. But I think next season, being, like, an option off the bench will suit him a lot more. So, like, it's hard to not say Sancho, because he's the one that everyone's talking about. But, like, I'd personally like to see us go get someone like Raul Jimenez from Wolves, like a proper, just proper striker. So yeah, I don't know. Should I just say a right winger? Is that?
No, it's forward line. Like I said, Martial could drop down to the right easily, in my opinion. So yeah, Raul Jimenez is not a bad shout, yeah.
Because I think Martial has proved he's definitely more of a striker than I thought he was these last couple of months. Again, I'm saying that that's influencing me because it's most recent. But, like, just thinking about Martial, Rashford, Sancho, Fernandez, Pogba, like, it's really exciting. And, like, I would love to see it, but I just don't know whether splashing 100 million on Sancho, especially, I know you're saying about the Bundesliga, it's not a rubbish league, but, like, Mkhitaryan had, like, 40 goal contributions the season before he joined us. And yes, he did win as the Europa League, basically, but he was nowhere near as good as we expected him to be. So I'm just a bit nervous about doing that. I know Chelsea are getting two great players from Bundesliga. So yeah, like, I'll say Jimenez, because I'd love to see a more experienced attacker in our front line. But obviously Sancho, I'd be delighted if he signed as well.
Yeah, I guess I can see that, and obviously with Mkhitaryan, you've seen it, and it's always strange buying players because obviously some just don't adapt to the physicality of the Premier League. But yeah, again, Sancho, English boy, grew up watching the game, It's not like Mkhitaryan, who grew up in Armenia. Armenian?
Yeah, Armenian, yeah.
Yeah, Sancho, he's only 20. So splashing 100 million on someone who, may not start off brilliant in the Prem, but someone who could easily have one season with 10 goal contributions and then go up to 25 the next year when he's gotten used to it, I see Dan James as a army weapon off the bench too. Greenwood, I see Man United having one of the better benches in the league if they can get all these transfers in, which, it's not like they don't have the money, they're Manchester United. And even if they're struggling with the money, especially right now, being able to get 100 million for Pogba frees up back selling Pogba brings in Sancho. I think that's a trade well worth, even if they can't do anything else, just literally. If we even take Ndidi out of my team and put Scott McTominay, Ndidi's, in my opinion, a better player, but you still have someone who's going to graft his out in McTominay and will still get you results. So, it's really, to be a Man United fan, in my opinion, you should be excited, because even if you lose Solskjaer, I see you bringing in Pochettino. You have all this talent that, still wants to join your team. You look at a lot of big teams that have fallen off. Where One, for example, we used to be a big team in the 80s. Look in the 90s and the 2000s, we were going around being like flexing our badge, like, yeah, you see this badge, it's won titles before, come sign for us. Man United are still a big name because of the fan base, because of the money it generates. Even if you're finishing 6th or 7th in the Premier League, you've been lucky enough to wear Man United as a stance to bring big players in. And I want to know, before we start to wrap things up and get things done, we keep leaving him to last, but we don't mean to. Harvey, I can imagine you want to talk about this front line. I know you love some Jadon Sancho. You love yourself some Marcus Rashford. Go on. What do you want to say?
You know what? I think you brushed on it earlier in the fact that Man United are basically linked to any big name in Europe. They have been for some years now, but I think the Jadon Sancho one's got a lot of weight behind it. We saw recently a screenshot surface of Jadon Sancho talking to a fan. I think it was real. I'm pretty sure it was real. Where the fan was asking if he'd come to Man United, was it? And he said he was comfortable at Dortmund. Whether or not that was just sort of to stop the stories going, if you will, until the window opens and whatnot. I don't know, but let's say that Man United get a hold of Sancho. I think the price tag Dortmund have said is between like 100 and 120 million. Usually Man United will be able to afford that after the economic crisis that I'm sure most clubs are facing right now, with no football being played, the loss of TV licenses as well. We'll have to see whether the price might drop, whether they might wait until next summer until they sort of regain some revenue. Let's say that they can afford him and he's in the team. He goes out to the right. I think that's pretty comfortable for him. Rashford, I don't think Rashford's the striker that holds a team together. I think Theo said this earlier. The Man City, they have Aguero and they have these big names behind him to each side of him to assist him. They all can score themselves as well. I think Rashford would fare a lot better out on the left-hand side rather than up top. And we saw him do that the start of the season, right before he went up into strike. He's proved himself at striker, and I think he's versatile going forward. But if Man United want to really push for a title, and I think in the next few seasons, if they invest right, it could be a possibility to sort of push Man City and Liverpool off their mantle. I think they'd have to invest in a goal scorer. And when I say goal scorer, I mean like a Harry Kane 2 or 3 seasons ago. Maybe
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always seen Kane as a player that wants trophies. Obviously, Spurs, that isn't the smartest thing to say. But I think if he wants to, like Gaffer mentioned earlier, the name Man United is a household name. People know all over the world. They don't have to be in a chance to win trophies to attract these big names. They're currently sat in the Europa League space. Jadon Sancho wants Champions League, but I think for a big reason of this move is I play for Man United. It's almost the bragging rights, and with the players they've got in the squad, they've brought in and players they've been linked to. I I think it's possible for Man United to push for this title as long as they have a strong midfield, plenty of youth and possibly potential at the back, sturdy goalkeeper, Jadon Sancho on the right, a finisher up top. It can't be Marcus Rashford because I don't think he has the experience behind his name yet. Marcus Rashford would fit over on the left, but I think as far as a striker goes, a player like Harry Kane would fit that mantle. Maybe we see Luis Suarez come back to the Premier League if Barcelona get a hold of Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. You never know what's going to happen, but that's...
What are you saying with signing Suarez?
I know.
I would want him nowhere near this club.
I am saying, right, they look for a finisher, a Suarez-type player. Suarez, it looks like he might be pushed out of this Barcelona team. That isn't important. Regardless, Man United need a finisher, a goal scorer. That's me done on the matter before I get myself into more trouble with the 6 Man United fans that watch this.
I'd agree with what you said about Rashford though, because Martial and Rashford were playing together at the start of the season. Then Martial got injured for a bit, and Rashford had to go up front by himself. And he didn't do very well. It was probably like his worst form for us in like a while. But then as soon as Martial came back and Rashford moved out to the left, he played much better. And we haven't seen him with Fernandez yet, so that's something to look forward to too.
And I didn't bottle it at all. I don't know what you people are talking about. I definitely didn't miss someone out here. Ashlee, what do you think about the forward line?
I think the forward line we do have lays a good foundation for the future anyway. Players like Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, Anthony Martial, who's still 24. I think these players still have a really good foundation for what we need. They bring a lot of pace to the team, a lot of quality goal scoring ability. Martial, it's not the most consistent player, but he is a class player on his day, and he does show his quality every game he plays in. But it's about the amount of quality he shows and how he uses that quality that really determines how he does. He just needs to figure out how to use that quality more consistently and more efficiently, and then I think he will be probably talked about in the best strikers in the league. Marcus Rashford, one of the most valuable strikers in the world at the moment, obviously with his age and his ability. And then Mason Greenwood probably is one of the most promising strikers in the world. His potential is so high. And before we wrap it up, I do want to talk about Alexis Sanchez at the moment, right? So Solskjaer earlier this year said that he wants Alexis to come back and prove everyone wrong. But in my opinion, I think Alexis has had the chance to prove himself at Inter. Didn't live up to any expectation at all. It'll be a struggle to get someone to pay the wages of Alexis Sanchez, but I think that if the right team come from, like, say, China, who do offer all these big wages, we'll come and take him, because we'll be paying his wages for him literally sitting at home doing nothing. Because he's not a technical player anymore. He was very good at Arsenal. He was so technical at Arsenal, so good at Barcelona, and then he came to United and just dropped off so abruptly. And maybe we can give him a chance in pre-season, but maybe then if he continues his poor run of form, it's time to let him go.
Sorry. I was so excited for Sanchez when he joined as well. Like, I thought he was like the guy to just, like, when I say an experienced forward, like, that's him. Like if you look at the last 5 years of the Premier League, he has been like one of the top scorers every season. And of course, the season we sign him, he just like what top team would take him now, which is really like sad to think about. But yeah, like I don't know why Solskjaer said that. I feel like he might, like, Solskjaer does say quite some things, I think, just to protect players, and I feel like that's what he might have done. So yeah, I can't see Sanchez coming back. There's rumours that we might use him, like, for the Sancho deal, like as a swap. Obviously plus money, because you wouldn't be able to do a straight swap.
Yeah, but knowing Man United's look, let's face it, you're going to trade Sancho for Alexis Sanchez. Alexis Sanchez is going to go to the Bundesliga and score 40 in a season, and Sancho's going to get injured. But I want to talk about, Harvey and Theo, you've both talked about elite finishers. I want to talk about a different Inter Milan forward, who I believe you made one of the biggest mistakes in your club by selling, and that's Romelu Lukaku. If I give you this team now and we swap Martial out for Romelu Lukaku, who scored 25 goals for an awful Man United team. I get he misses big chances. I watched him for a few years. I know sometimes he can miss things, but he's guaranteed 20 goals a season. He's guaranteed. And with Rashford, Sancho, and Bruno, I could argue he's guaranteed 30. The man he's such a natural. He's not even he's not technical. He's got the touch of a donkey. He has got the touch of a donkey, but he's so powerful, so athletic, so naturally gifted as a striker that he fits. With this team, I really could have seen Lukaku boosting you to top 3, maybe even top 2 team in the league, especially with Jadon Sancho. I could see you winning the league with Lukaku much earlier than with Martial.
Yeah, I think with a lot of times with our strikers in the last couple of years, one thing I've said to back them up is they don't have the players behind them consistently providing chances as I said, Man City do. But I just think Lukaku, he just didn't seem to care enough, and he talked about how it was in March that he decided he wanted to leave, and he was still playing. And there was a game. I'm sure you're happy that I'm bringing it up, Callum. The 4-0 in, I think it was April. That game was one of the worst I've watched in since Fergie left, because it was just so players just didn't seem to care, and Lukaku was clearly one of them. And since those goals he scored against PSG, he didn't do anything basically for the whole season. He was injured for quite a bit when Solskjaer took over. He came back, and I think he scored 3 games. He scored twice back to back. It was Southampton, Palace, and then obviously PSG. And then he just went quiet and clearly didn't care. And I don't think he's the type of player that would fit into Solskjaer's way of playing. But I know you guys are saying that you'd have Pochettino, so I don't know if that influences it, because he's kind of similar. He's obviously quicker than Kane, and he's that type of hold the ball up striker, even though he can't. Well, you'd say he should hold it up, but he wasn't very good at it. So I think Kane would definitely be the perfect player to go for as an elite attacker.
Yeah, and looking at the Everton 4-0 game, I think that we're going to use that game, because as the Everton fan I like to talk about it, but we're going to use it to sum up the big issue of Man United, in my opinion, and that's a lack of dedication. For example, we put 2 past you in 10 minutes. We've shown our defence is awful. Everton's defence is awful. You could have easily come back and got 2 goals, probably even 3 or 4. But that we banged 2 in, and Man United, your players just put your tools down, and we punished you for it and put another 2 past you for it. The Digne free kick, it seemed like your defence weren't paying any attention. The wall wasn't paying attention, punished for it. It seems like that game perfectly sums up the problem with Man United, and that Man United need players who play for the Man United badge, just like they did under Sir Alex Ferguson. And you could even argue they played more for the badge under Moyes than they do now. It's a bit of a strange thing to see.
What I would say though is I think since that game, Solskjaer, he said after the game, and he was pretty adamant. He said, "I'm going to be successful here, and it's up to the players. Some of them aren't going to be there to enjoy that success with me." And since then, that summer, he got rid of so many players. He got rid of Smalling. He's got rid of Rojo. He's got rid of Lukaku. He's got rid of Sanchez. He's got rid of so many players. He's got rid of Herrera, Valencia. So many players have just gone, and he's building a new team. And there haven't been many times this season, I'm sure someone will correct me, I can't remember us getting battered. I might be forgetting something, but I can't remember us getting completely Ashlee, have we been battered?
Maybe against City in the first leg of the Carabao Cup, but that's about it. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but like, it didn't feel like it's different. Like we haven't. It doesn't feel like the players don't care. The squad seems a lot happier now this season. And I think Solskjaer had an interview yesterday or something, talking about how he wants to get rid of the bad apples. And I think he has done that. And I think you guys were saying earlier, you think Pogba might be someone in the changing room who is one of those bad apples. But clearly, if he's still here, Solskjaer is perfectly happy with him. That might be for other factors. We don't know. But what I'm saying is, like, the camp seems a lot happier. And I'd like to think going forward, the team just seems so much more together, like, especially in the midfield. Fred and McTominay, just like they're just like the passion they show, especially in those games like Man City away this season. They were amazing. Man City at home this season, they're amazing. Like, they've done so well. So I do think we're on the up in terms of having a squad that, whilst it might not be the most like talented yet, and we still need to make additions to what we already have, I think the passion is definitely there now compared to when Solskjaer took over.
Yeah, so to put it simple, I think if someone from Man United listens to our advice, you're winning another 20 league titles. It's
Clearly, yeah.
I feel like we've highlighted all the right issues. We've talked about all possible signings, who could play where, what could happen. It's not like this has been one point we've showed. That with Man United, there's a few ways you can go, and I think that is a good point to where we can wrap it up. So,
Can I just make one little point?
of course, you can, Ashlee. Go on.
So, as you know, United have a very good youth system, and I think we need to utilise that as much as we can. So we've got players like Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, even Paul Pogba came through the academy. Like we've now got players coming through the academy like James Garner, Dylan Levitt, Nathan Bishop, Tahith Chong, and these players have shown how good and efficiently United handle those players, and we give them first team opportunities as well. So against PSG, we finished the game with, I think it was eight academy graduates on the pitch. And I think
Greenwood came on and he went to school the next day, the next
he did an exam
after,
the next day.
like, it's mad.
And obviously Mason Greenwood being the most recent star that's broke out into the first team, continuing to prove his property, and he is one of the most promising strikers in the world at the moment. James Garner played 8 games in the first team and 10 games in the Premier League 2, and in the Premier League 2, played 10 games and scored 8 from centre mid. And so, yeah, I just think the quality in the academy is so good, and it does go unnoticed.
We've got like a mad stat. I might be getting this wrong, but I think it's like since 1932 or something.
What I was saying. This is what I was saying before.
We've had an academy player in every single matchday squad since then. I'm not sure. It might not be in the 1932. It might be earlier.
Yeah, no, it's something ridiculous. It's something like a few thousand games in a row with at least one player from the academy in the starting 11 in the matchday squad or whatever. It is ridiculous numbers. I think it's Man United, Leeds, and Liverpool, I think, that have the most impressive stats regarding their youth system or whatnot in their starting 11 and whatnot. But yeah, it is frightening the amount of players that Man United produced through that academy system. Spot on with that one.
So imagine if Chelsea used their academy like
Ridiculous.
I mean, to be fair, Lampard has actually this last season. That's why I actually quite rate him as a manager. I think he's going to do well there. Chelsea in the past, they weren't used. They had, like, you look at Ake left, like the amount of players that left who were really talented. And it's weird, like under Van Gaal, we had like a period where so many players got a chance, especially like that game where Rashford made his debut. Like, if we had Chelsea's academy, like, they would, like, Abraham would have burst onto the scene like much earlier. All these players would have had a chance much earlier. And I don't want to go off topic, but like, it's good that Lampard is like finally giving them a chance.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear me rant about Lampard, watch the Weekly Waffle episode 1, where I do exactly that.
What, you rate him?
Yes, completely. Case
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah, I think he's doing a good job, and it's good that he's getting the players that he needs. Like that's all he was lacking.
Oh yeah.
I feel like Solskjaer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to put it simply, I feel like if you look at the clubs who've never been relegated from the Premier League, so there's United, Everton,
Doesn't stop.
Liverpool, Arsenal. You look at those 4 teams. Weirdly, those 4 teams seem to be teams that use their youth academy a lot more than other teams. We dip into our youth academy all the time when there's injuries. You know, Man United have mentioned it. You know, Arsenal may not be as much anymore, but like you may say Cesc Fabregas came through from the Barca one, but he was kind of groomed at the Arsenal one by Wenger. You know, you learn all the technical stuff at La Masia, but you learn to be that hard-working player in England in the Arsenal academy. You know, it shows that the academy does pay off, and teams like Chelsea over the years who may be successful may have been more successful if they could have used that academy, because, you know, they probably would have had a lot of good players as rotational pieces, and I think it shows that maybe teams should dip into the academy a lot more, especially when you've got these big Premier League budgets where you can afford these massive training facilities. Like, look at Man City's youth academy, like the training area is unbelievable. They've put a lot of money into it, to be fair.
Yeah, it's mental. You guys could do a full episode, like just on clubs academies, like Arsenal as well, bringing through. They've got Saka. There's someone else who's been getting a chance. What's his name? He was at Leeds. Yeah, he Arteta gave him a chance as well, and he took that. So, like, a lot of teams are starting to dip into the academy.
Yeah, it's great to see, and I feel like that finally now is a good point to end off. We haven't missed anything, so I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Thank you, Harvey, Ashlee, and Theo for coming on. And since you are our special guest, Theo, if you want to plug anything, go ahead and do it now. Here's your opportunity.
Well, yeah. So you can follow me at United Inside. I'm really excited for the football coming back, because it's been hard with no football to like keep posting and stuff. So, like, as I was saying, I'm really excited for our midfield and stuff. I'm just excited to see that front line with Pogba and Fernandez behind. So yeah, I'm super excited for football to come back next week.
Yeah, and after that little plug, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow on Spotify, follow the Twitter, follow the Instagram, like all of our posts, everything on every social media. And also make sure you go follow United Inside, and every time he posts, I want to see likes on it. So thank you everyone for watching. It's been